Okay, we'll get started in just a second. Just making sure it's streaming live on YouTube the way it's supposed to. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. Let's see. I'm trying to wait for a couple more people to join, but hey, we'll go ahead and get started. So this way, now Sierra, you can ask me what you want to ask me exclusively. Let's see. So basically, I wanted to just start with a brief intro and a few housekeeping tips. First, I wanted to let everyone know that these sessions are recorded. They go through YouTube Live. So if you can mute your lines, that would be great. Just mute your lines. It's going to prevent any background noise. And if you can mute your video as well, because as you speak, well, you don't have to mute your video, but as you speak, your lines will, with the YouTube, with the Hangouts, it starts switching video from one person to the next, depending on who's talking. So I'm going to make this call as brief as I possibly can, this webinar, and I hope you get the most out of it. Get your pen and paper ready, take some notes. I'm going to go through a whole series of how to start a business, just from start to finish, on what it is you should do, how you can get your business started now on a budget. So my name is Arja. Just a little bit about myself. I started my first business at age 18. It was a temporary staffing agency, and I bought my first house at 19 with the income that I got from that temporary staffing agency. I just wasn't able to really differentiate the difference between my emotional and my business. I didn't know how to separate it. I was just not mentally there, and I allowed emotional things to happen in my life that really hindered my business growth. So I ended up selling my business, and I moved to Southern California. From there, I went to Cal State Dominguez, graduated with my first bachelor's in accounting. And before I went back to school, I ended up starting a real estate sales office. I opened a real estate sales office, real estate mortgage office. I had financial service office, including insurance office, tax services, escrow office, so on and so forth. So with these businesses, I've made millions of dollars. Started plenty of multi-million-dollar businesses, well experienced at that, been through all the trials and errors. But in 2007, my life was completely turned upside down. I had a very different trials that occurred in my life, including a sexual assault and being arrested for a crime that I did not commit. And with that, I ended up losing everything, which I was able to work back through and learn certain principles of success that have guided me through in building my business back up. That's where I'm at today. So my main focus is to really help other people build those same principles in their business so that they can start and grow and succeed in their businesses as well. That's my main mission. So that's just a little bit about myself. So let's go into today's webinar, which we're going to be talking about how to start a business on a budget, okay? Which nowadays it's such a commonplace with the way social media is. You have so many people wanting to start businesses now, Social media has it to where people think that it's just a piece of cake. It's start your business, grow your business, and live this certain lifestyle. It is and it isn't, just depending on how you go about and how you approach it. So basically, I want to just go through the structure of starting a business. The first thing I want to say is when you start your business, the very first thing to do is start. So many people say they want to start a business and never get started. They never take the action. It takes the action to really get your business going and to really get started with your business. If you don't put that action behind it, no matter what you do, no matter what amount of research you do, no matter what, you can come up with the best business idea in the world. But if you don't put that action behind it and actually start, then it does you no good. You'll never get anywhere. So I'm going to go through 10 basic steps really of starting a business and how to go about starting the business and what you need to do. For 1 second. Okay. So the first thing you're going to really need to do is do your research. Most people don't realize that when businesses come out there in the market, a lot of research has been done. Businesses get started for a couple of different reasons. There's either a need that's being met, that's not being met, that this business will meet, or there's a strong desire. Okay, so you have a lot of businesses that are starting because, especially food in the food industry, people want to eat. People want to be entertained. People, no matter what the economy is, it's certain things that are just going to always be there. And people are always going to have that need to eat. People are always going to have that need to, laugh and joke and, have that certain lifestyle. So there's certain businesses that you can start that are really lifestyle driven. And then there's others that are started from a need. And just a quick reminder, if you can mute your line as you come in. Hey, if you can mute your line and just, you can also mute your video if you want, but if you mute your line so that the line doesn't switch back and forth. Okay. Okay, perfect. So basically what I was saying was, so there's businesses that are started now because there's a need that's in the marketplace that's not being met. You see that so often with businesses such as, I just seen like with my grandson, there's these new wipes for the nose when we used to use the old wipes, use them for the nose. But there's just different needs in the marketplace that hey, you know what, we need this. Let's start a business. Let's get this done, and they succeed. So it really depends on what the market says. So you want to first do your research. If you have this great business idea, you want to figure out how viable is this business? How many people would want what I have to offer? So you test it out in the marketplace. You can do that in various different ways. You can do surveys. You can go to Amazon. I really like doing Amazon reviews because as people read books and review products, or they give you problems like, hey, the problem with this was that this didn't happen, or the problem with this was this. And you can take those reviews and say, hey, you know what, these are problems that I understand and I can address with my business. So you want to make sure you do all the research and make sure that it's really a viable business that people really want. I know, like Sierra, for example, for you're in the makeup business. People want to look beautiful. So there is a need out there for that. I mean, people want to, they have weddings, proms, just people want to look beautiful just on every day. So there is a great need for that. I mean, as a makeup artist, that's what you do. And that's your skills, and that's what you help people to become beautiful. So that's a really good business, for you to really get going. So basically, that's really the first thing, is just figuring out who and what and how great that need is for your business. And then you devise a plan. Success is planned. Any type of business, you got to have a plan. You got to have plan A, plan B, plan C. You got to devise that plan. You can't just go about business and think that I'm just going to start a business and it's just going to be successful. Success is actually planned. It's like, I want to go to New York. New York is here and I'm in LA here. I got to figure out how to go from LA to New York. That's a plan. And if on my way, there's this freeway is closed, there's detours, I can still get from LA to New York if I have that plan. So that's really what it's about, is having that plan. and just devising that plan for you to succeed in life. So it doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be just everything addressed, but you need that plan. It's kind of like building a house. When you have this house, the house doesn't just pop up without the architecture coming first and planning and mapping that house out. Once the architect maps everything out about that house, and then they start working on the foundation. So that plan is first. And most people skip that step. They don't have the plan. They don't know what to do, where to go when things pop up, how to go. You have to develop the plan. That plan is your guide. Like I said, it doesn't have to be elaborate. You're not going to be addressing everything. You're not going to, I mean, you possibly cannot address all the issues that will pop up. But you need to have a basic plan so you can use that plan as your guide on where to go, how to get there. So even backing up a little bit more, I said, if you're here in LA and you want to get to New York, I know where my destination is. I know where I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get to New York. So even before devising that plan, you got to know where you're trying to go with your business. Where do you want to go? Do you ultimately want to sell your business? Do you want to just make $5,000 a month with your business? I mean, what are you trying to accomplish with your business? You got to know that first. And I say, make $5,000 a month because you want to add a monetary value to it. If that's your goal, if your goal is, I just want to make $5,000 a month. Now it's broken down by if you charge $100 for your services, how many people do I need to service throughout that month to make that $5,000? How many people do I need to service in a week to make whatever it is? And an example of that, let's take the number 5,000. So if you have 5,000 and your product, make it easy, is a $100 product, then that means you've got to service 50 people. So how do you break that up? Okay, there's 4 weeks in a month. So let's say 50 divided by 4. It's going to put us at, let's see how many clients you got to service in a week. Approximately 12 and a half, 13 people a week. And let's break that up by day. So now if we're only going to work 5 days a week, and that's, let's say 13 people, then that's about 2 to 3 people a day. So now that's how you're going to get to your $5,000 goal every single month. So if you know what your goal is, or you know what you're trying to get to, then you can break it down into bite-sized pieces. How easy is it to get 2 to 3 clients a month if you're trying to just make $5,000 a month? Now, 2 to 3 clients a day. So now if I broke it down and say I need 2 to 3 clients a day, how can I get those 2 to 3 clients a day? How can I market to get these 2 to 3 clients a day? So when it's broken down into bite-sized pieces, it makes it a lot more soluble, right? You're able to really get it done. So that's really step 2, is just figuring out what your plan is, devising your plan, and going from there. And that plan will change. The plan changes, not the goal. So if you know what your ultimate goal is, if plan A is not getting it, then here's plan B. Plan B is not getting it, then here's plan C. Your goal never changes. The plan is a workable plan, okay? Depending on, like I said, those roads, those detours. If I'm in LA, want to get to New York, and this freeway shut down, then I go to this freeway. It's the same way with your business. So step 3 is really about working out the money and the details of it. Now you know what you want to do. Here's my plan. This is this is my ultimate goal with my business. This is what I want to accomplish. So now what do I have to do? I have to figure out how much money I need. How do I get this going if I have very limited money? There's so many different ways. What people don't understand about money is just a resource. If you don't have money, there's other resources that you can use. People, time, these are all resources. So if you don't have the money that it takes to start your business, figure out what else can I do to start that business. Barter. If I need accounting services and I'm a hairdresser, hey, how about I approach this accountant and say, you know what? In exchange for you setting up my accounting system, I'll do your hair for twice or 3 times, whatever it is you guys decide on. So there's other resources when you don't have money that are available for you. You just have to figure out what do you have to offer other than money to get the things done that you need. There's a whole world out there that barters. It's a whole business sector that barters, depending on what it is that you need. So it's something that's been going on for years. The initial system, medium of exchange was bartering way, way, way back in the days, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. You know, if I had fruits and berries and I needed some milk over here, I would take my fruits and berries and come to you, and you had the cows, and ask if you needed some, you know, if you needed some fruits and berries and I need your milk. But the issue with that came because now if I have fruits and berries and you have milk, I need your milk, but you don't need my fruits and berries, then we can't exchange. But that's where money came into play. Money came into play for convenience. It became a way for a medium of exchange for people, and it became convenient because now if I have fruits and berries, you have milk, but you don't need my fruits and berries, but I'm able to sell my fruits and berries and get money for it. Now I can take that money and go buy the milk. So money is just a medium of exchange. So now figure out, how else can I use this medium of exchange if I don't have the money to really make this business work for me? And just a reminder to mute mute your lines too. So we don't hear the background noise. So now, just talking about that. So just really, once you know how much, where you're trying to go, you know your business, you know where you're trying to go, how you're going to get there, then you can figure out, well, how much money do I need? If I don't have the money, then what else can I do to get what I need done? Okay, like I said, bartering. There's other sources, like there's a GoFundMe, Indiegogo, there's Kickstarter. If you have this great idea, Kickstarter is a great platform to put that idea up, where you can, like, especially when it's a product, like an innovative product. I've seen hundreds of thousands raised on Kickstarter. So if you have this great idea, Kickstarter may be a place to go, or GoFundMe or Indiegogo, things of that sort, or even grants. When you have a nonprofit organization, you can apply for grants and things of that sort. But you got to know, again, what you need, how much you need, and what you need it for. So it really starts with that plan, figuring that out. So now, once you've figured out, you know, I have this business idea, I've done the research, I know it's great, I've provided a plan on what I need to do or where I'm trying to go with it, I figured out how much money I need to get it going, then figure out how you want to structure that business. There's various different structures. You can start with, there's a sole proprietor structure, a partnership, LLC, which is limited liability company. There's corporations. You have your S Corp, your C Corp, your nonprofit. There's various different corporations, and just understanding what you're trying to accomplish. I never recommend going the sole proprietorship route. And the reason being is because what happens with the business is you want liability protection. In the state of California, people are absolutely sue crazy, lawsuit crazy. So what you don't want to happen is you don't want someone to come up and sue you for what you have based on, oh, you know what, my face broke out. It was the wrong, you used the wrong my kind of chemicals or whatever, and I have sensitive skin and my face broke out, so I'm going to sue you. If you are a sole proprietor or a partner, you are not protected from liability. So you definitely want to make sure that you have that liability protection. Treasurer, you have children. If one of the kids slips and falls, you want to make sure that they're protected and your assets are going to be protected if someone tries to sue you. So if you structure your business as anything other than a sole proprietorship or a partnership, you will be protected from any type of liability. And let me also say this. I think it's really important to say that business banking accounts. So many people start business banking accounts and they use their business banking account for their personal use, or they use their personal bank account for their business use. Do not do that. This is called intermingling funds. And what happens when you intermingle funds is you just put the liability right back on yourself. Because what you're saying in essence is, you know what? I know that I started an LLC or an S Corp, C Corp, or a nonprofit for liability purposes, but now I'm using this for my personal, or I'm using my personal for my business. So what you're telling your creditors, or you're telling the IRS or anybody else, is that I'm directly related to this. So you're actually adding the liability right back on yourself when you intermingle funds. And most people don't know that. because it's so convenient. If I'm here and this is the only ATM card I have, I'm going to use it. No, don't do that. Not only for intermingling funds, but you also want to make sure that you keep everything separate for accountability purpose when it comes to taxes and things of that sort. You want to make sure that everything is totally separate. So let's talk a little bit about the differences between the different structures. Your sole proprietorship is just basically, it's just you doing business as, so that's a DBA. It could be Sierra doing business as, the best makeup artist in the world or whatever it is. That's just simply a DBA. Again, you have no liability protection with that. So if anything were to happen, they're coming after you as an individual because you're saying, I own this business. This is my business. I'm 100% liable for this business, okay? A partnership is the same thing. A partnership, you have no liability protection. It's just saying, I'm in business now with this other person and we're doing business as XYZ company. So there's no liability protection at all with that as well. So those two, I don't ever really recommend. It's certain instances where people start off that way and then later on they restructure their business because, for different various reasons, they need to get started and don't have the funds, so they just get started this way. But I never, ever recommend being structured that way. Another thing is when it comes to tax time, if you are a sole proprietor or a partner, a Schedule C is what you're going to be filing with your personal income taxes. So now you have no control over how much you're making and what's being reported on US on your individual taxes. So then when it comes to tax time and you owe the IRS, you owe the IRS. You cannot get away from that. Again, we'll go into that a little bit more when we talk about the different structures and how it can help you on your own individual taxes as well. So then moving on to an LLC. An LLC gives you that protection from liability. It's a limited liability company. An LLC is very flexible. You have a lot of protection when it comes to, like I said, that liability and running an LLC. One of the things that I tell people when it comes to LLCs, though, are most outside investors, they will not fund an LLC. They want you to be an S Corp or a C Corp. They will not fund an LLC. An LLC is not ideal if you're going to be, go public anytime soon. You can't do that with an LLC. Like I said, the benefit of an LLC is the ease of operations. Like you don't have a lot of the requirements that you'd have with an S Corp or a C Corp, so on and so forth. Okay, so you have that ease of operation when it comes to an LLC. But then there's other, like I said, most investors won't fund an LLC. You're not going to have an IPO, the initial public offering with an LLC. So there's various different pros and cons for each of these. You just have to figure out what it is that you're trying to do. Another thing is if you were to file for bankruptcy as an individual, depending on what state you're in, you will be directly affected. Your LLC will be directly affected. I mean, they can actually foreclose on the business and your interest in the business, especially if it's a single member LLC. Okay, they can foreclose on your business if you file bankruptcy. So it does not really protect you from the creditors in the event of a bankruptcy or even a death. Okay, so an LLC has limits. Now let's move on to corporations. There's three types of corporations we're going to talk about: the S Corp, the C Corp, and the nonprofit corporation. So your S Corp is just an IRS designation. It's a subchapter S in the IRS designation. And what that says is, this is not what it is, but it's easy to remember S Corp by saying small corporation. And the reason why I say small is because they limit you to the number of shareholders that you can have with an S Corp. So say you were going public with your company, you're limited on the number of shareholders. So you may want to switch from an S Corp to a C Corp. One of the benefits of having an S Corp, though, would be double taxation. And I know I'm saying a whole bunch. So if you guys, I'm hoping you guys are writing stuff down so you can ask me questions. Maybe I'll pause after this segment just to see if there's any questions, because I know I've said a lot, but especially when it comes to structuring your business. But your S Corp, when it comes to tax time, You're taxed one time. You report a Schedule K1 to each individual shareholders. And those individual shareholders then report that on their individual tax returns. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that portion of it. Just with your tax portion of it, you can refer to your tax consultant or your accounting if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty with that. But one of the benefits of the S Corp is the single taxation. One of the downfalls to like the C Corp is the double taxation. I am going to explain the double taxation to you so you'll understand that, because you'll have people that say, don't do a C Corp because it's double tax. The reason why they say it's double tax is because if I make $100,000 with my C Corp, then I have to file a Form 1120 tax return, which I am then taxed on that tax return. Okay, that 1120 with the IRS, I pay my taxes to the IRS. And then I turn around and I pay ARJA, I pay myself $60,000. Well, now me as an individual is paying taxes on that $60,000 that the corporation gave me. Well, the corporation just paid taxes on the $100,000. Now you have to turn around and pay taxes on the $60,000, me as an individual. So that's where that double taxation comes in. And some people just don't want to deal with the double taxation, okay? And there's ways, like I said, when you do your taxes and you're expensing a lot of it out, I mean, there's things your tax consultant and your accountant can really go into and talk to you about. I'm not going to go into it here. But again, a benefit to an S Corp or a C Corp is investors will come in and they will fund those type of businesses. When you have your initial public offering, those are the type of businesses that they're looking for. Your no liability protection for your partnerships or your sole proprietorships, but you do have liability protection for your S Corps, your C Corps, and your LLCs. Then the other type of corporation is a nonprofit corporation. And one of the things I want to say with a nonprofit, and I say this all the time, is you can make a profit with a nonprofit as long as what you're doing in your business, is advancing your original purpose. You can have a profitable business advancing your original purpose, okay? And I say that because so many people, they stray away from nonprofits, but their business and what they're trying to do is very nonprofit. So it really should be categorized as a nonprofit because they're out helping the community, or they're doing, they have a certain group of individuals that they're trying to help advance, but they don't want to do a nonprofit because the name scares them and they think, oh, I can't make any money with a nonprofit. I can't do anything with a nonprofit. So you can make a profit with a nonprofit as long as you're using those proceeds and what you're doing is still advancing what your original purpose was. It's why the IRS gave you that exemption. You can do things that are going to make a profit within that nonprofit. The benefit of having a nonprofit is just that it's a tax exempt agency. So if I make $1 billion, as long as I'm within the realm of what I say I'm doing and I'm advancing my purpose, then that $1 billion is non-tax. I pay nothing on that $1 billion. Another interesting thing is religion. If you have a designation as a religious organization, as a nonprofit, you do have to report what your income is, and it's public information. It's not private, it's public information. But at church, if you have that religious designation, you do not even have to report your income at all, not even for information purposes. So this is why if you, over the last year or two, you have these governments that have been scrutinizing these churches, so these big leaders, religious leaders, because they don't even have to report their income at all. They get this designation from the IRS and they don't even have to report anything that they get. So no one knows exactly how much they're making at all. So that's the difference between a religious designation and a nonprofit designation. Is the nonprofit does have to report. It is public information, so you know how much the nonprofit has. Anybody can pull that information up to see what a nonprofit has, what their income is, what their expenses are, and so on and so forth. But with a nonprofit, now, as long as you're advancing your purposes, not only can you do activities that are making your profit, but you can also get grants. Most corporations have nonprofits attached to them because they give away a certain percentage of their income or their proceeds. to nonprofits. So now you can open yourself up to grants. You can open yourself up to in-kind donations. You can open yourself up to fundraisers. There's so many different things now you can do with a nonprofit. Okay. So that's just really real quick about the structure. And I'll stop here for a second. Do you guys have any questions? No, I just gave you a whole bunch. It's one of two ways you can do it. You can either unmute yourself and ask me questions, or you can enter in the chat if you don't want to ask.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know how to work this thing good. First webinar. I don't know. Could you hear me now at all?
I can hear you.
A little bit better. Okay. So when you say, as far as a religious, not the nonprofit, but I'm saying how religion, they don't have to report that. If you had a spot that is considered, you can go there as a place to study religion, would that be considered if you had some sort of setup? Because I asked that because I know of someone, they actually have like some sort of group home or whatever to help the community, but they also have ministries attached to that that home, and they lay out publications and things for people to read. And of course, if there's questions, and there's answered. Is that something that you would call a religious setting where you would not have to report taxes?
So when you get that designation as religious, the IRS is the one that gives you that designation. So what you would do is, if you have that material, so that's one of the first things they look at, is do you have religious material that that you're promoting your denomination or whatever it is that you're teaching. Okay. Mm-hmm. And whatever the religious material is, you've got to, when you submit your application to the IRS, you have to submit that information as well. And they determine whether this is really for religious purposes or not, because they don't want nonprofits over here getting this religious designation just because, I don't want to show anything on my tax returns or whatever. So if they have, like I heard you say, they have pamphlets and things that they give out, if they have that type of information that they give out, and what they are doing is advancing their religion and their beliefs, then yes, they can get that religious designation from the IRS.
And does it have to be a certain belief, or can it, like, also too, like at the office I noticed, because I was like, why do they have like a church here? I mean, people come there. I've never really seen the people come there, but I know it's a huge office, and I don't know the denomination. I just know that's what it is, and there's chairs and stuff like that in there. So do you have to have a specific denomination, or could it just be any religion, like, or
No, it doesn't have to be a specific denomination. It could be any religion. I mean, you can start your own religion, teaching your own beliefs. That could be out.
Because what it is, I'm like, what in the world is going on in here? But I mean, I haven't been in there, of course, but I just wondered, because I seen it, so maybe that's why it's in a building, in an office building. Oh no.
Yeah. No particular denomination. No particular denomination. It could just, like I said, I'm advancing my religious beliefs, and here's what I believe, and you give the IRS your list of beliefs, and that's basically, like I said, there's not any particular denomination or anything of that sort. So I just thought that was really interesting about how just how you don't have to report, and how they've been under scrutiny with the government has been scrutinizing that lately.
Right. But I can understand why it could be scrutinized, because many can hide behind that. So.
And that's what many are doing. Many of these religious leaders are doing. Okay.
Right.
So we're not going to get too deep into that, though, because it is a live webinar that's going to go on YouTube.
Okay.
but we have the same beliefs about it. So, any other questions though? On anything? I know I just gave a whole mouthful.
I guess the other thing you did explain to me about the double taxation, because I didn't understand what that was. And then of course I'm trying to do I'm doing the nonprofit. I'm taking that. So I don't know if you're going to get more into that specifics, if I should just wait and see if you throw out something that I'll question, but that's kind of what I'm tuned in listening for.
And for your daycare, it's a sole proprietor?
Yeah, it is. And that was another thing, because I believe you suggested to me before about it being a nonprofit, and I never really understood how it could be. I don't know if that's something you want to talk to me privately, or if it's okay to discuss it now.
Yeah. Well, on your particular, we could talk privately, because I'm just generalizing everything right now. But yeah, and that's part of the reason is, like I said, because when it comes to liability, you don't want any liability on you personally. You don't want someone to be able to come after you. Their child gets sick, their child falls and hurts themselves. You don't want them suing you.
Right. Now my question with that though, I do, like, when I registered with the state, there is a form that they have parents sign, and it is a waiver. Does that waiver, I mean, it's in our packets that they give us. So is that like honorable in a court of law, or is it just a paper there and they still can come after you?
They can still come after you. That paper doesn't take away someone's right. You have a right to settle things. You have a right, and that's why when you go to the medical facility, they have you sign an arbitration agreement, mediation arbitration, because just because you waive these doesn't mean that I don't have a right to do it in the court of, in the court of law.
So what is the purpose of the waiver then? What is it?
It's to help protect you as well, because now you have this waiver that says, and depending on what it says, I don't know what it says exactly, but now you have this waiver that says, I'm not liable for X, Y, Z. I don't know exactly what the waiver says that they're signing, but people can still.
Well, the state makes it up, but it's more or less a waiver saying that, like, I do not have liability insurance, and I don't remember the rest, but I know that's like the first sentence. And
so you should really read through that and make sure that you're really protected, because it sounds like you're saying that the state is allowing you to operate without insurance. So each parent needs to know that you're not insured. So basically, they've licensed you, and to protect themselves, now give this to each parent in the packet, because now I need to protect, as a state, I gave you a license. Because, so now let's back it up a little bit. Before I move into a building, or before anyone moves into a building, one of the first things you have to do is you have to get insurance. Okay. When you go for different licenses, the first thing the state, I don't care if it's real estate license, if it's a tax license, if it's, whatever license it is, the state requires that you're bonded or insured. Okay. In the event something would happen. So now if I'm granting you a license and I'm a state agency, and you don't have insurance, then I need to make sure in this packet that you have each parent sign that they know that you are not insured. So at the end of the day, the state is protecting them because they gave you a license and you're not insured. So that's why I don't know what the form says, but it sounds more like an informative type of thing to protect the state. So you can't come back to the state and say, well, you licensed me and you didn't tell me I had to have insurance. Or another child or a parent come back and say, well, they don't even have insurance. How are you licensing them? So it sounds like it's kind of like a protection mechanism for the state.
So what I'm saying though, what would be the difference between a protection for themselves and for us? It would be they're putting it in there how they worded it. So if it's good enough to protect them, why would it not be good enough to protect us?
Well, it's putting it in there, and I'm sure, again, I don't know what it says, but I'm sure it's saying something along the lines of, this person doesn't have liability insurance. And we did license them, but you have to understand that they don't have liability insurance, and you're the one who's taking the risk. That you can't come back to us, the licensing agency, because we license them and they don't have insurance. It's you're taking the risk. So you should probably have another form in there to protect you, specifically to protect you, and you have each parent sign. I mean, I don't know what that form says, so I'm just blindly speaking right now, but without knowing.
It would be better to just be insured either way, but I'm just saying that's how it kind of goes down with the state.
Yeah. If you want, you can send me the form and I'll look through what it says.
Okay, will do.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. So no questions? No one else, huh? Okay. So I'll keep going. So once you figure out the structure, your business structure, then what you're going to do is choose your business name, right? And when you choose your business name, you want to make sure that it's something, number one, that someone else doesn't have. You don't want to be using a business name that someone else has and they end up sending you something because now you've infringed on their trademark, or you can't get the name online with your website, or the name is saturated and this person had this name before and they did a whole bunch of bad things with this name, so now this name is associated with bad business. So you want to really come up with a name that's really unique for you, that really is going to describe what it is that you're doing. Another thing is, when you think of a name, don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself to an area. Don't limit yourself to a group. Don't limit yourself to whatever it is. Don't place limitations on yourself, because you may want to grow later on. You may start off and say, you know what, I only want to service this particular area. But then later on, you may say, you know what, I'm going to service this whole area over here. So now if your name is East Side Sales, it sounds like you sell on the East Side. So now it's really going to be hard to start branching off into North, East, West, South, whatever it is. That's just an example of how you can limit yourself by the name. You don't want people to start associating your name with just this one thing, and then later on you want to branch off. And so, for example, instead of saying, cakes and candies, you may say, catering or whatever it is in the name. So you're not just strictly stuck to, oh, I only bake cakes, or automatically someone thinks, oh, they only make cakes and candies. No, I have a plethora of stuff that I do. I may do cakes and candies, that may be my specialty, but I also do, meatloaf or whatever it is. So in that same way, you don't want to place those limitations on yourself. And a name can do that. A name can really do that. So, sorry about that, guys. Phone going on. So basically, when you think of a name, think of something that you can grow with, something that, another thing would be like, trying to think of a name that is really hard to grow with, or a business that may have used a name like mine. Nothing's coming up at the top of my head. But you want to really think of something that you can grow with. You want to think of something that's easy to remember. You don't want to come up with a name that people can't figure out how to spell, especially when they don't remember, or they see it real quick, or they hear it, they Google it. You want them to be able to Google it. You don't want something that, how in the world do you spell that? Or I can't figure out how to spell this name. You want things that are going to be easy for people to Google, to remember, to spell, a name that's going to be flexible for you to, like I said, to move around. You want to avoid trendy type of names. Trends change all the time. So you want to make sure you avoid those trendy type of names. Something you want to pick a name that's going to be there and that your kids can use, that your kids are now CEOs of this corporation, your grandkids are now CEOs of this corporation. Just a name that lives on, and something that's very memorable. And when you're choosing a name, now you've got to make sure that the name is available in social media. You've got to make sure the name's available on the website. Now, and that's the domain name. That's going to be the difficult part, because so many domain names are out there and just taken. You want to make sure it's something that you can find a domain name that's not going to be too long, and something that really has your name in it too. Okay. So, just make sure that when you do your search, that you do a trademark search for the name, because it sucks. One of my clients came to me because she had built this name. And she's known for this particular name, and she built this name, and then she gets a trademark infringement letter because someone else had trademarked the name years before her. And it sucks to have to change your name after you've built a brand around this name. So you want to make sure you do a search and the name is available for you to trademark. And then if it is available for you to trademark, even before you trademark it, start using the little TM, the little initials TM, the very corner of the name. Because what that says is that lets people know that it is my intent to trademark this name. And you are now protecting that name out there in the marketplace. So if someone comes and trademarks that name before you, but you were using this name and you were using that TM, letting people know that that's your intent, that TM is as good as you trademarking that, because that TM is a protection saying that, you know what, this is my name, I own it, and I'm going to protect it. I may not be protecting it right now, but here's my intent. You guys know what it is. So if you use that TM at the top, right after your name, you're actually protecting your name, and you're letting others know that that's yours. Don't touch. So many times people come up with things. I had another client come to me who came up with this great business concept, great business name, who was doing business with this name. And someone came up behind her, we're talking about over a year later, and trademarks her name. I mean, she never let anybody know she was going to trademark it. I mean, she does have repercussions. I mean, she can go back and show, if she wants to fight it, that, you know what, I was using this out in the marketplace long in advance of this person, but it can get costly. So she could have protected it and could have prevented that just by simply using the TM after her name, if she didn't have the money to trademark it, immediately. But it's really, really important that you trademark your name. If you don't have the money, like I said, to do it, use that TM. Because when you come up with a name and you build this business and you build this brand and people know you by this, it sucks for somebody to come up right under you and trademark it. And people do it. People do it all the time. It's the world we live in. Like, people sue all the time. Same thing. So just when you come up with your name, make sure that you protect your name. Make sure that your name is usable on social media, that you can find a domain name under your name. You don't want trendy names. You don't want names that are going to limit you. Use the KISS method. Most people know as the KISS method as keep it simple, stupid, but use it saying keep it simple and short. So come up with something that's going to be short, simple, that people are going to remember, that's going to reflect on what you do. Do you guys have any questions about a name? No? And also, when you come up with a name, you want to make sure that it's not offensive in another language. Say for example, certain words that you come up with in other languages may be offensive. So you want to make sure that if you're going to be international, especially, that it's not something that's offensive.
Arsha, I did have a question about the name. So when you use the TM, like, okay, I already have my business names. Okay. So I can attach that onto it now. And and if someone else is using that name, or just say I put the intent to use and someone else has it, who gets to keep it? If you've I mean, is it a matter of if you have the TMZ or TM about it behind it that you get to keep it, or does somebody else makes that decision? Just if you both somehow have the TM afterward, who gets to keep it?
So what you do is it's based upon who was using it in the market first. So if you prove that, you know what, I had this name long before you, I was using this name 5 years ago, this is everything that I'm doing, and you can prove that you were using it prior to this person, then of course you have a right over the name. So the first thing you do is when you're looking up names, you're going to do a search through the United States Patent and Trademark Office. You're going to do a search. You're going to make sure that that name doesn't pop up. I also do an internet search. Like I'll just put in the name and see what pops up through the internet. Because sometimes, like you said, people in other states, other places, and they have the same exact name. And which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you have nonprofits, especially that, have the same exact name that are both licensed through the IRS, um, in different states that are doing different things. You see a lot of industries like that, the trucking industries, just there's a lot of different industries like that. That's why it's important that you do your search, because you want to make sure that you're not using a name that's already been trademarked, number one, because now you're infringing and you've spent all this money on marketing, you've done all this stuff, business cards, whatever it is that you're trying to brand, and you can't use this. When you get an infringement letter, that's like the worst feeling ever, when you're infringing on someone else's name. So you want to make sure that you protect your name as soon as possible. And now, and I used to not even promote protecting it internationally, but now you got to protect it internationally, because now you have, these other businesses that are in other countries that will steal your name in a heartbeat and be out there almost duplicating what you do, just writing off of your efforts. Now you've got to even consider protecting your name internationally. Because when you do your locally in the United States, when you do your trademark protection, the USPTO, that's only in the United States. There's also an international website or an international trademark that you can do that will protect you internationally if you want to take it that far. And if I was doing like clothing, something along those lines, I would consider doing international trademarks as well as United States domestic protection. Just because with clothing, you see so often people stealing other people's clothing in other countries and stealing their names and using, writing off of what they're doing. So certain industries, I would definitely make sure I'm protected both domestically and internationally. Any other questions? Okay. So after you figured that out, we've gone a little bit into your state filings when we talked about the name. We talked about going to the USPTO office just to check out the name. But you also want to check out your, like we talked about the corporations. You want to do your name search through your Secretary of State office to make sure that that name is usable in that state where you're trying to do business. If someone else has the name, then you can't use it. Or even a similar name, then you can't use it. You got to make some modifications. And that's like along the lines, Treasurer, what we went through with your name when we checked your name and it was not usable. So we had to make a little bit of modifications with that. So because in the same state, when we go like to Secretary of State office, you cannot have a name that's the same name as someone's already using. So you want to make sure that you do that to protect your name and make sure that you've done all your research before you start using that name. And you can go, if you're doing a sole proprietor, your county recorder, that would be simply as simple as getting a DBA with the county recorder. Or if you're going to structure it as a nonprofit or for-profit, any type of they'll structure an LLC, then contact the Secretary of State, check out the name, see if you can file that name, and then go from there and file your paperwork, just set up that structure. And when you set up that structure locally, that's your protection local. So when you do that DBA, if you're a sole proprietor and you do that DBA, like for example in LA County, then now this protects this name in LA County. Nobody else can use this name in LA County. If I go on and I incorporate this name, now I'm protected in the state of California. To protect this name, you can't use this name and do business in the state of California. But again, that's a little bit different than trademarking, where trademarking 100% protects the name from use anywhere domestically. And after you get your structure set up and you go through and fill out the proper information that you need, depending on how you're structuring it, you want to get an employer identification number, your EIN. What that is just your federal tax ID number. You'll need to go, if you hire employees, you'll have to have a state tax ID number, various different things. But that federal tax ID number will allow you to get bank accounts, will allow you to do various different things with that business. It really is like the social security number for that business. It's the best way for me to describe it is a social security number for that business. And then open up your bank account. Make sure you do that because we talked early on about intermingling funds. That's definitely not what you want to do. Is you do not want to intermingle funds. So you want to totally keep it separate and keep that liability protection. So after you set up the bank account and go on, and I know I'm rushing through this now because I'm looking at the time like, okay, I set an hour, but after you set that up, you want to make sure that all your business systems are set up from your accounting system from day one. Make sure your accounting system is set up because you want to be able to track your income. You want to be able to track your expenses. By tracking your income and expenses, now you know what's working and what's not working. What am I making money on? What am I not making money on? If I have a restaurant, you know what's selling and what's not selling. If this is selling more on Tuesday and this is not selling on Friday, maybe I want to offer this excess out on this day. I mean, so if you're tracking it, you're able to check the pulse of your business. You know what your business is doing. You're not just operating every day and you're paying your expenses as they come. You've got to know what the pulse of your business is. You've got to know budgets. You've got to know how much you're spending, how much you're earning, what's working, what's not working, what you need to be doing more of, what you need to cut out of. And you're only going to know that if you set up those systems and you track it. And the other thing is a lot of people set up those systems like they do QuickBooks, but they never put in any information in there. Information doesn't just magically appear into QuickBooks. You actually have to take the time and install these programs and actually do the data entry. And if you can't do it, then hire somebody else that can do it. But make sure you get all that stuff together because it's important for you to really check the pulse of your business. You really want to be able to, depending on if you're a brick and mortar, if you're online, the next thing that you want to do is really set your business up now where you can start selling and growing. If you're a brick and mortar, it's so important that you make sure of that location. Before you jump into a location, make sure that that location can be licensed. That is so important. That is so important. And I'm saying this because I've had people come to me after they've spent the money on the location, after they started renovating the location. And guess what? The first question I ask is, did you check to see if you can be licensed? This type of business can be licensed in this location. I look at zoning and they're not zoned for that particular business. Well, go down to the county and find out, or go down to City Hall and find out. Then they go down and find out after they've spent tens of thousands of dollars that business, they can't even have that type of business there. So what I'm saying to you is it's so important that you make sure that you check with City Hall and that business is that type of business is able to be, where you're proposing it to be. And a lot of times in cities don't just let any business or anything pop up. They have a certain amount of, like, say, for example, liquor stores, a certain amount of liquor stores that they want in a certain vicinity. They have a certain amount of banks, they have a certain amount of this, they have a certain amount of that. So cities they're organized and they don't just want any type of business or won't allow just anything to pop up anywhere. So you want to make sure before you pay any money to that, potential landlord, that you make sure that your type of business can be licensed in that particular location. So that's key, okay, if you're opening a brick and mortar. If you're doing an online store, you want to make sure, because there's so many different tax laws now with online sales. So many different tax laws have come into place because before, online sales weren't taxed. Now they are. You want to make sure that all the structures are set up in the various different states. You have licenses that you're going to do the selling in. I mean, it's a lot of different things that you want to make sure are taking place and happening before you just get out there and open for business. Because the worst thing is for you to get out there, open for business, and then you can start getting hit with all kind of fines. You get penalties, penalty, fine. You didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. Take it down, do this. I mean, you don't want to start your business, marketing your business, and then have to stop your business because you didn't make sure everything was done right in the initial beginning. So that's really important, that you make sure all of that is done right. And then basically marketing, the next thing is just really marketing. And I always say when it comes to marketing that figure out who your target market is, who your target audience is. Because it's just like if I have a headache and I go to a pharmacy, I can either buy medicine that says cure all, including pharmacy. I mean, it's including headaches. Here's a cure all, including headaches. Or I can buy medicine that says for headaches. I'm going to pick up that medicine that says for headaches only. One of the biggest things that people do when they open a business is they think that, oh, everybody can buy my product. Everybody needs this product. Yeah, okay, that may be true that your product can sell to any and everybody, but that's not how you want to market it. If you're marketing it that way, you're kind of marketing it like that cure-all. I have a headache, and yeah, this cure-all can cure headaches because it says it cures everything. But if I have a headache, I have a specific need, I'm going to go to the store and buy something to deal with to address my specific need. So it's the same thing with your business. You want to make sure that, yeah, you have a business that everyone and anyone needs this business, but who are you specifically trying to target? And when you set up your marketing, if you set up your marketing to target that particular market audience, then it'll be much more effective than just trying to market to any and everybody. Yeah, any and everybody can use it, but now you're spending a whole bunch of money and you're not talking to anyone in particular. So you want to make sure you're talking to the person who is most likely to buy and who you're really speaking to. So you want to really figure that out. Do you guys have any questions? I know we're like at an hour mark right now. Real quick, any questions? Okay, great.
I think that, sorry.
Huh?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say, and you may cover it in a different webinar, but what if you're interested in maybe starting an app? That type of, is that considered like a business, or what would you apply from what you said today to maybe opening up an app or starting up an app?
An app?
Yes.
Okay. Definitely the name and the trademark for sure. You want to make sure that even beyond the trademark, depending on how extensive it is, you can also patent certain information. So you may want to look for patents, depending on what it is, the particulars of it, so that someone else can't come and just steal your idea or go behind your back and do something else that you haven't protected. So that's definitely for sure when you do an app. And it's kind of like the same things. I mean, you're not going to have to go through so much. The corporation is structured, yes, because again, that's just any type of protection from liability. If something goes wrong with the app and someone says, hey, this app caused my whole phone to crash, or this app caused a virus or brought a virus, and I'm going to sue you because now I had $1 million worth of information on my phone that's no longer there. You want to make sure you're protected. So you still want to make sure that your structure is there, you're protected there. So kind of like along the same lines, except for now you don't have a brick and mortar, but now you have an online type of thing. So it's still some things, everything we talked about is still going to be applicable to you. Not everything, but most of the things we talked about is still going to be applicable to an app. Just the basic stuff. Good question, though. Any other questions? No? Okay. And so basically, that was a whole bunch, and I kind of covered most of what I wanted to cover. It was a couple other things that I did want to cover, but we're at like 12:04. But I hope you guys got some information out of that. If you have like specific questions, send me an email, text me. We can talk about your specific questions, your specific issues, or whatever it is, and get really specific with your needs. But thank you guys for joining me. And I'll probably be setting up, I'm going to try to do webinars more often. So I'll probably be setting up another one. I want to do one on marketing, just various different things. Those different steps that I want to do, maybe a webinar, just that will be devoted particularly to that step on how to do it and how to go about doing it. So any other questions before we're done? Okay, good. All right, excellent. Well, that's it. That's all I have to say. I hope you guys did get some information from it. If you did, if you enjoyed it, make sure you send me a shout out via social media, how much you enjoyed it and what you learned from it. And that's it. So I'll keep you guys updated, or like I said, reach out if you have any particular questions, and I'll keep you guys updated on upcoming webinars. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.